We all have good and bad luck when working on cars, and there's one case that stands out in my mind that's a combination of both that's amusing to look back on. Back when my two best friends and I pretty much just drove around in beater cars. What my friend drove that we were working on at the time was I believe it was a 98 Oldsmobile 88 Royale, which, if I recall, was the top trim level, but you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at what the car's condition was at the time. In fact, the only picture I have left of the car is from a before and after shot with rubbing compound on the hood. Though on this particular day, we were hanging out for a while and he was driving me back to where I lived at the time. One of the wheels started making a noise and we pulled it into the garage to check it out. Right when we pulled in and parked it where we were going to work on it, the rain started coming down, so I got the jack out real quick and started lifting it up. It ended up just being one of the wheels hadn't had the lug nuts tightened down all the way and it was wobbling them around a bit. We were done and I was twisting the jack to lower it, and I guess as I twisted it torqued a little bit, and of course it was wet. It slipped out from the rail where it had been jacked up at, and it knocked over to the side as the car slammed down on it. I pulled the jack out from underneath the car and everything seemed fine until we smelled gas. This was bad. My friend needed to go home and get up early in the morning for work, and I had just ripped a fuel line, or so I thought. Somehow, out of the entire distance from wheel to wheel where the fuel line travels, I had managed to get lucky enough that this jack ended up puncturing the fuel filter, of all things, the small replaceable piece in the entire length of that fuel line. That's all that got damaged. The line was fine on both ends. It was just a little nick in the fuel filter. And that would have been an okay story. We probably would have had to wake up early in the morning, go to the auto parts store, pick up a fuel filter, throw it in there and try to get them to work on time. But it just so happens that my '01 Grand Prix was due for a fuel filter change, and I had already bought a fuel filter for it. So I had sitting on my shelf the exact replacement fuel filter for that car, and I was able to swap it out and he went on home. Ever since then, I stopped using jacks in the rain because that's the kind of luck you just don't have twice. That car was in rough shape. I remember there was a point where we had like 5 people in the car and I was in the right rear seat, and we had like gotten into the car and we were just driving off real fast to get to wherever we were going. And I didn't shut the door all the way. When we're heading down the road, the car was alerting him that the door wasn't shut all the way, and there was definitely wind coming by because we were at like 40 miles per hour at that point. And I didn't want to try to open up the door against the force of the wind, so I was like, I'll just pull on it. So I just pull, and then I'm looking at my hand over here because I have the door handle in my hand. There was no metal in it, it was just mostly foam and plastic. Never use a jack in the rain, and never trust a door handle on a beater car.